So why don't we get started? First of all, I want to thank everybody for taking time out of their busy day to join us here this afternoon, talk about what's going on with Hyperion Enterprise and looking at some options around what we've seen companies do recently, and certainly some options that you can consider. So again, my name is Marty Phelps. I'm with ClearLine Group, and we've got one other presenter here from ClearLine this afternoon, and Dave Zaranin, who I'm going to introduce in a couple of minutes. Let him introduce himself. Just as we get started here, why don't I go through and introduce the agenda. So first thing up, we're going to actually change this up a little bit and go through I'll give you a quick 2-minute overview of ClearLine, who we are, what's our value or services, etc. And right, you'd expect that. We're going to talk a little bit about the current environment with respect to financial consolidations. Talk about some of the challenges right now with Hyperion Enterprise. Obviously, we see what's going on with it as far as Oracle support, but aside from that, what are some other things that are going on with that, or things that we've seen companies struggle with over the years? And then talk about HFM and really try to highlight the sources of value in HFM, so you understand what the benefits of that solution would be for you, potentially for your organization. Talk about some of the key features, some design considerations that we've seen in companies implementing this, and then talking about what a migration would look like, timeline, resource estimates, etc. We've also got as an offer, a special offer to attendees to this event, an assessment offering where we're going to offer a proof of concept. Come in and actually we'll be able to take your Hyperion Enterprise application and build out a proof in HFM in order to show you, see and touch what it actually would look like in your own environment. So that's something we'll talk about at the very end of the session. So actually, why don't we get started here with an introduction of Dave Zaranin. Very excited to have Dave on board here at ClearLine. Brings a wealth of experience in HFM and consolidations from the business side as well as technical. And he is our HFM practice lead. Dave?
Hey, thanks, Marty. Hi, my name is Dave Zaranin. I've been working with the Hyperion products for a little over 20 years now. Actually worked with Oracle for a number of years, over 10 years actually, on a couple of different avenues. And with that, I have a lot of experience going back. I started right out of college working on the consolidations package with a company called Herc Celanese, and we developed a product called FastStar, which was then merged into the products. Remember back in the 1980s when microcontrol was the big hit. Worked on that product. So FastStar was merged and bought by a company called IFRS, and then microcontrol and FastStar were competing products, and then together they merged them, and then we created this other product called Enterprise, and that's the product that you guys are working on, a lot of you today. And that was very popular in the 1990s, was the big leading consolidation package out there. And then now we're in the 2000s, and the leading consolidation package is HFM. So what we want to do is kind of walk you through a lot of the benefits that are in HFM and why you guys should upgrade. And I've done over 70 to 100 implementations with the product, so I can answer a lot of your detailed questions as we get through the end of this thing. What I wanted to do was just kind of have a little bit of fun. David Letterman, they always have their top 10 list. And so I wanted to give you the top 10 reasons why you should buy or move to HFM. And this is a lot of the information compiled over the years. So hit it. So the first one is the security. So there's a lot more cool security features that are set up, and we can use the LDAP. And then number 9 is the process management. I know Enterprise doesn't have any process management, but that's built into HFM. Number 8 is better production reporting. We can put logos and boxes and do a lot more text scripting in the report writer. And then next is the we have a common reporting tool. So in other words, Smart View, it's the same Smart View now in HFM as it is in planning and SBase and across a lot of the other Oracle tools. Number 6, there's a graphical interface, this thing called OFMA, and that links right in from HFM to OBIE and gives you all these cool dashboards. And then, again, simplified administration. There's no more year-end rollovers, so you don't have to worry about the timing and the awkwardness of doing those. Number 4 is we got a lot of the compliance stuff covered, and there's a couple examples, 302 and the 404 requirements with electric sign-offs and then the segregation of duties for journal entries and whatnot. And number 3 is dimensionality. We have a lot more dimensionality in HFM than we did in Enterprise. Enterprise, you're limited to basically your account dimension and your entity dimension, and then we did all our crazy slicing and dicing of data from there. And then number 2, the web architecture. Basically, this thing is you don't have to use Citrix anymore, which is a big win. And then HFM is web-based, and it's built for scalability. And the number 1 reason is just money. So just spend the money and get it done.
So thanks a lot, Dave. Appreciate that. Just a quick little overview of some of the benefits of HFM. As I promised, keep this short, but just so you understand a little bit about ClearLine, we are a professional services company really focused on delivering that customer value. We've got a team with, I'd say, an extreme amount of experience, averaging 10 to 15 years in the performance management space, people like Dave who've been out doing this on the business side as well as the technical side for many, many years. And I guess the other one that we talk about, which is really important, is just pure focus on the Oracle EPM tools. Of course, most of that is in the Hyperion space, not only on their financial application tools, but also on the business intelligence and reporting side. Really, we take our customers through that whole value chain of planning, execute, and then assessing the solution and moving on forward to improve that. On the planning side, everywhere from the strategic planning that you're going to be doing within your organization through the financial, operational, and then, of course, the reporting of that to compare the actual results versus your plan, and how do things pan out for you, and what kind of changes do you need to make going forward. And the bottom box there is all about the consolidation process and then being able to analyze that data, slice and dice as you need to, and make sense of it in different ways rather than your statutory reporting. Services, the breadth from advisory towards implementation, and then as well as support and application development. So it's really across the spectrum of professional services that we work with our clients. Come in up front, help them with the requirements analysis, design the solution, and then build and support. And then our featured clients, some of these up here right now, several of them are existing or current clients, TJX, Best Buy, Estee Lauder, HNTB, Pactiv, we just wrapped up a project at, and some of the other ones there. So that's just a quick sample of those accounts. And as we've talked about, just focus on Hyperion, Oracle EPM. We are, in fact, a gold partner of Oracle. And again, I believe our value that we provide to our clients is in the experience of the resources that we bring to your engagement, as well as understanding the business side of that and not just the technical side. So what's going on today? Why are some of these? Why are we having this event today? Why is the topic of financial consolidations on many people's mind these days? There's a lot of changes going on with respect to the current environment that we're operating in. The compliance regulations. I don't have to tell people here on the phone, but just to reiterate, Sarbanes-Oxley and IFRS, investor demand, as well as investor demands for reporting on the non-financial metrics, are really driving many of these needs across corporate America for more detailed disclosures, combined operational and financial results, detailed audit trails, fraud prevention, electronic filing. So you've got many different things going on in the environment out there today, which are driving greater need for more sophisticated consolidations, it's not just a rack and stack numbers function anymore. There's much more analysis and much more need for greater detail and ability to look at those results than there was previously. Go down, Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the older solutions that we see out there, I just wanted to highlight, these are kind of the four, and we'll talk about a fifth that we see quite a bit of, but you know, spreadsheet-based solutions, they're still out there. There's still a number of companies that are running their financial consolidations and reporting on spreadsheets. And, you know, obviously with some of the Sarbanes changes that were put through, this is something that honestly requires a fair amount, or involves quite an amount of risk when you're doing that financial reporting off of spreadsheets that can be easily manipulated and changed without sufficient audit trail. Point solutions we see out there, by this I mean just solutions that are just built to consolidate, just roll the numbers up. And while these were, you know, as Dave mentioned, back in the 90s, these were pretty popular because of the demands that I talked about on the previous slide. They're just not meeting the needs today to be able to do more robust reporting, limited primarily just to that statutory reporting piece. ERP solutions, again, we see these quite a bit where companies are saying, hey, I'm just going to do the consolidations out of my ERP and not go to another specific solution. And we find that those are limited for a couple of reasons. One is it's really relying upon that specific transaction system. They also require a large amount of IT support, and we generally see that financial consolidation solutions are those things that like to be housed within, you know, the accounting and finance groups, and they like to have the ability to go in and do the analysis or load the data or understand the data a little bit better and not be subject to maybe the schedules of another department. So for that reason, we see that those are not always the optimum solutions. And then finally, you've got out there a whole host of kind of what we call the all-in-one enterprise performance management solutions that are kind of wide but not real deep, and you know, they may cover everything from planning to consolidations to reporting or operational planning, etc. And they really don't offer the in-depth reporting and analysis that we see that most companies today need. So kind of a shallow cut across your data. Probably not going to give you the type of analysis that you need. And of course, what about Hyperion Enterprise? It's really why we're here. And I think probably everybody on the phone is aware that Oracle is moving off of Premier support in next month, May of 2013. So there's not going to be new updates. There's not new fixes or security alerts, data fixes, critical path updates, patch updates. That's it. There's not going to be any further updates to that software. You certainly can run it. And we can certainly talk about some of the risks that might introduce in your environment, but you know, suffice to say, it's not a supported solution anymore by Oracle. So it's, you know, the risks that will go along with that. Great, Marty. Well, what should we do about that? So again, the reason we're here today is to talk about, you know, your options around moving off of Hyperion Enterprise for many reasons that I talked about previously. And so what are your options? Obviously, the option that we do want to talk about today and explore is what are the benefits of HFM? What would be the benefits for you moving to an HFM solution out of Hyperion Enterprise? So first thing we want to do is just take a quick look, a walkthrough of Hyperion Enterprise, and you know, really focus on what some of the limitations of that solution are. So Dave?
Yep. Nope. Thanks, Marty. Yeah, so these are the, I listed out a lot of the common struggles that a lot of the enterprise folks have that I've talked to. So I'd say over the past, I'd say the last 8 to 10 implementations, most of them have been enterprise to HFM upgrades. So the first thing is the dimension constraint. You're basically working with your entity and your account dimensions. So and I got to give it to you guys. A lot of the enterprise folks have been very creative, including myself when I was consulting on that, on the stuff that we can do with those two dimensions. So that's the first struggle is you're working within the 5-dimension constraint there. The second one is intercompany eliminations. I must have got about 4 or 5 major hugs, and I got a free lunch out of it at one client. Actually, is when we upgraded to HFM. Basically, the intercompany eliminations. Most of the people in enterprise, it's very slow. It's kind of difficult to work with. We always end up building, not always, but a lot of times we end up building a retrieve Excel worksheets, in order to summarize and get the data. And then within the tree, as within your entity structure, you have to build your substructure or your structure with your elimination entity at each of the levels, the common, where the parents are. So that's just, a couple of limitations there. And then if you are using the substructures, and you're attaching those to your levels, they can become quite large as well. And then every year you have the dreaded rollover, as I called it. So we got to take actuals and then roll that in and make it last year. And the timing of this, as I said, can be kind of awkward. So depending on when you're starting, your year-end process and finalizing your numbers, doing your consolidation, and then you want to get started in, your current year. So you have to juggle the schedule for that to make that happen. And then another thing is in enterprise, you got to build all your you got to have all your logic there for your subtotals and your calculations and everything there. And I'm going to show you in HFM how you don't need all that. Data entry is very fixed in enterprise, where you have just your screen. You have basically your accounts and your time dimensions. And it makes it difficult, so we'll show you some more on that. There is no process management in Hyperion Enterprise, so that's another thing. So you don't have control other than locking and unlocking your data sets there. That's basically the control that you're using. And then also you must click around the different modules to find information. There's this thing in HFM called task list, and we can direct users down a specific path during the consolidation close. So that makes that process a little bit easier. So now let me just give you guys an overview of some of the benefits, right out of the gate. So as you guys try to help sell this to your management, these are some of the things we can list out. It's web-based, so there is no footprint, or so you can use it. So your users just get a URL and you're in there. We have 12 dimensions versus the 5 dimensions, and data grids are you move them around and you're not fixed with a fixed format there. We can have there's also cell text. So if you have a piece of data that you want to explain, we can attach cell text. We can attach documents. So there's lots of things we can do there. There's enhanced intercompany. Like I said, intercompany is huge from enterprise to HFM. It's very simple and easy to build. They've really taken the time and done it right. There's a lot of elimination reports that you can run, and you can filter on matched, unmatched. You can filter based on different dollar amounts, and it's really very powerful. Like I said, the task list, there's task lists out there. Process management is, we'll show you a screen on that. And then system maintenance. You don't have to kick everybody out in order to, add a new user or to do security update on an entity. So all that stuff can be done with users in the system. And then the reporting. It's similar to the books, the reports, the retrieve. But you're using the smart view, so it's the same reporting studio that's good for planning and all the other modules. So again, just to kind of highlight the major thing that I want to just kind of point you in is the dimensions. So right now there's 12 dimensions, 8 are fixed, and I'll show you a quick of those, and then 4 are custom dimensions. And you don't have to utilize them. You can use them or not. I mean, it's totally up to you guys on how you want to use the dimensions. But the dimensions can be cost center, they could be products, they could be location, profit center, regions. You have a lot of different options there. Okay. So then now here's just an example of the 12 dimensions. This was one of the customers we used. So you have this scenario dimension, which is your your budget, your forecast, your actual at plan or actual at budget rates, you know, and then you have a year dimension. So that, you know, houses your years, you know, like 2002 through 2022 or whatever years you want to use. Your periods, that's just putting in just similar where you have your quarter one, could be January, February, March, quarter two, you know, your months and everything there. Your views, the value, entities, accounts, and I'll show you an example of these. And then you have these custom dimensions. So now one of the things that you need to kind of pay attention to and just remember that's a little bit different now is, and so we can put in a cost center dimension, a product family. We can capture different data types where we can have, you know, what's been input, what's been adjusted, and a lot of different ways to capture this data. So let me just talk about some of the key features here in HFM. The first thing that when I go into a new client or we go into an HFM is you just got to understand there's a new design. So, you know, can we take what you have done in the past and put it into HFM? Absolutely. The answer is yes. But also what I try to do is get you guys, everyone out there, to understand the new possibilities or new options out there. So you're basically going from the entity to the account dimension to the entity, account, intercompany, custom 1 through 4. So a couple of the design considerations that I want to share with you guys that we want to talk about is, one, you know, when and why do I use custom dimensions? Two, you know, why don't I need, you know, the sub-account logic? Three, how do I handle U.S. overrides? 4, how do I handle currency analysis? 5, how do I handle intercompany? 6, how do I handle process management? And then 7 is the historical data conversion. So that's something that we just got to keep in mind. A lot of people forget about that as we do the upgrades, and they're focused on the application design. But we always got to remember the data conversion. And then the last one is you don't need the year-end rollovers. And we'll just talk about that real quick. So the custom dimensions here. So the first, we just talked about it, so I won't go into too much detail. But again, those are open to be used for anything, as I said. You know, accounts, profit center, locations, product family, data types, and whatnot. Now the key feature here that I want to talk about, you have the hierarchy tree for each dimension. So you have your account dimension, your entity dimension, you have custom dimensions. And each tree has built-in intelligence on it. So basically, think of it as family relationships. So you have a parent, and then with base members and children and siblings. So with no rules at all or no logic needed, what it does is it'll aggregate as as it adds up. And of course, you don't have to aggregate as it adds up, but by default, that's what it does. So so you don't need to use the sub-account and/or chart logic. So that's a win right there. So if we took the same account structure, you don't have to worry about the chart logic. And then this is just a quick example of a cost center hierarchy that I sold, and then a product family hierarchy that's out there. And again, and these can be related. And a lot of times back in the enterprise days, what we would do is have to have an alternate roll-up or an entity structure to handle this stuff. Now this stuff can be done right in one application in the custom dimensions. And it can be related to both the P&L and balance sheet and/or just P&L accounts. So there's many ways to do this. And then this is just a quick example of the scenario, the year, the period, and the view. Now, the entity dimension, a lot of times with the enterprise folks, it can stay similar. I mean, so if we have a legal roll-up and/or a regional roll-up, we can keep those out there, and that should work fine. But if we have a product roll-up, like I said before, and some of those other functional roll-ups, I mean, I had one guy build he had a whole G&A, general administration with all the expense items and a roll-up to do that. We don't need to do that in HFM. We can handle that right into the account structure itself. So what I want to do is talk about U.S. dollar overrides. Now this is something that's really easy, and there's a couple of ways to do it in HFM, which is nice. I mean, what we do is we can set up the rules to be as complex or as simple as possible, to whatever you guys have. For example, on one location we had the there's also a reoccurring balance. So in other words, so if we have a dollar right account, you have, say, $300,000 in local currency, and then that should be $100,000 in U.S. dollars. So what you can do is put in that $100,000 once in the application, and then that'll carry forward until the local currency number changes. And then at that point, it'll flag you, and then you can put in a new dollar override account, and or we can calculate it based on the change and whatnot. So again, you have many different options on how to do dollar overrides, and it's quite easy to use. Foreign currency analysis. So what this is, it's the actual at last year rates, the actual at budget rates, and it's basically a way to view the data, taking the foreign currency exchange rate out of the picture. So if I wanted to look at, actual compared to last year, how did I grow? And it's very simple to do. We can have a rule in there that says when you consolidate actual at last year in the scenario, what it does is it automatically will just go grab the actual data, copy that over, and then based on the exchange rates, it'll just, the last year rates, it would just translate it, and then in a report, you can have a simple column report where you have your accounts down the rows, columns going across, you have actual at last year, and a variance, and then you can see the information quite easy. Intercompany eliminations, again, this is a feature that was really built out in HFM, and it works very well. You have a lot more ability with the matching reports than you did and the stuff actually works in HFM as it kind of worked in Enterprise. It was slow, but anyway, so they're pre-built reports, and there's a lot of cool features that do work in intercompany. So what I was going to do is just show you a little bit. So basically what you do in the system is the system has a placeholder for each account. You identify it as an intercompany, yes or no. And then you can, for the matching, like you have an account receivable, account payable, and then they call it a plug account, or some people call it a suspense account. So if there's a difference in the match, say one person puts in $100 receivable, another person puts in $90 payable, I have a $10 difference. The $10 difference goes into the suspense account or plug account, and then I'm able to run a matching report, see the difference, and then isolate it, and then do that. And then you can run matching reports on, with a variance of anything over 100,000 or whatever amounts you want to set it at. And then also in HFM, it's basically doing the matching based on the entity structure. So it builds the ICP dimension automatically by clicking the entities that are available to have intercompany, partners with other folks. And another feature built into the application is that the elimination is actually stored in the database. So we don't have to do anything tricky or funky to get to the information. It's stored in the value dimension. So at every entity, we can find the eliminated amount. So at each common parent, we know how much has been eliminated by account, by matching account. So you won't have these big balances to go look for like we did in Enterprise. Process management, this is a cool feature. Now, I'd say about half the folks out there end up using process management. Process management is a way to keep track of the data or to keep track of who's loaded their data and who's promoted their data. A lot of times this is being used for companies that have issues with a division or two and not getting their data in timely, and or the data is not being correct. And so this is a way that we can, promote data and then know electronically when it came in, how long it sat there, and when it got promoted. And then this is just a quick graph of how to map it out. So basically, you can have, we open up the period, and then it's ready for its first pass, and then from there the data gets loaded, and then you can have up to 9 reviewers at review it if you wanted to do that many levels of reviews. And then once it's reviewed, submitted, approved, and then it gets published. And then once it's published, that means it's ready for the world to view and to see. And then in the application, the screen here, basically I just wanted to point out, it shows you the nice green status, and give you a red status and a yellow status. So it gives you different color coordinated effort, and you can quickly go in and see by region, by entity, where people are in the process. And so, is it validated or not? A validation could be is their balance sheet, balanced. It could be a different validation account. So again, whatever makes sense, you can set up and use in the process management. Historical data conversion. Basically, the thing here is we need to figure out how we're going to move the data from, from the old data into the new database. Sometimes if it's a simple application and we're not changing the dimensions much, then it's very straightforward. Other times, if people see the dimensionality in HFM and they want to build it out and use more detail, they want to add custom accounts, then a lot of times what they'll do is they'll use FDM as well, and that has a lot of great features with the mapping tools, and it allows for I'll say the end user type. You don't need to be a programmer type to use FDM, and you can build your mapping tables and store all that. So that's a simple solution, because basically what you're doing here is you're taking it from from your entity and your accounts dimension, and then now you possibly go from entity account to intercompany to custom 1, 2, 3, or 4, and you may need to break it out that way. Now here was just a sample from one of the accounts that I actually did this at. Is we had the Hyperion Enterprise account, and then it basically in this example broke out into the account and then our custom dimension. And our custom dimension in this case was basically a cost center. So we took the data that was in one and then mapped it to the right segments and to the HFM application. So the other design consideration is no rollovers are needed. So that's nice. But what that means is, as we go through the design process, we look at the retained earnings, we look at your net income, and then we walk through with you, how do you want to handle that from year to year to year? Do you want your beginning balance to automatically roll into your ending balance? That's what most people do, and that's very common. Then we have our net income come down, and that feeds right into our retained earnings section as well from the P&L. So there's a lot of good features, and it's very simple and standardized to do. And then also, the dimensions, will handle your plan, your budgets, and everything else. So you don't need to worry about those at year end either. So basically, planning your migration. So one of the things that we'll do is we'll sit down with you guys and scope out the requirements, figure out our game plan, and then really, what information do we want? What information do you have today? What do you want to change? Kind of do that 10-minute to 15-minute assess of where we are, and then talk about the metadata build, the dimensions. Okay, if we do go pull out this extra information or we add different dimensions, where are we going to get that from? And then talk about the data, how the data is going to flow in and move through it. We'll talk about the workflow and reporting, and then a lot of times the training methodology of this, because usually in enterprise you have a handful of users, you got 3 or 4 in the admin, and then maybe another handful of folks at each one of the other corporate locations that have their app that then feed in there. So usually when we go to HFM, we roll it out to additional users. So we got to think about, kind of train the trainer, getting some of those end users working. And then obviously we always test the application. So we'll build it, test it, and talk about that. Now the application is built to be scaled. So you'll hear you'll hear people talk, oh, HFM is more complex and it costs more. But then you can do a lot more with it. So at the end of the day versus enterprise. A typical implementation to convert somebody is about 6 months. So it could be less, and we've done less. So it depends on how much data and what we're going to build and how we're going to load it. So a lot of people will treat this like a mini new implementation project because we do add a lot of new functionality. Some of the benefits of HFM is the reduced time it takes. You know, I'll just let you guys read through the list here real quick. But just to highlight it, this is a lot of the stuff that we talked about. Combine 3 applications to one. What I mean by that is a lot of times you'll have a financial application that'll have a P&L and balance sheet. Then you'll have like a product application that'll house all the product information. And then you may have like a G&A application that has all that detail because you can't fit it all into one because of the dimension limitations. So you build these multiple applications. But you can do that in one application here in HFM. So again.
Good. Thanks so much, Dave. That obviously was a lot of information to go through. So you know, if there's any questions, we're wrapping up here. I'm just going to go through the assessment offering, but you know, any questions, please feel free to send those in. Just going to set that up. So, okay. Okay, so proof of concept. This has been a pretty popular offering. There's honestly not too many of the enterprise applications still out there. We do run into them, but for organizations that are looking to migrate to HFM, you know, the first question is, well, what's it going to look like? How am I going to be able to use this? How are my users going to do it? They love enterprise. They have for years. How much different is this going to be? So here's an opportunity to do that. So again, we're offering attendees to this session that proof of concept approach. And basically the goal is to give you a sample of your enterprise application in HFM. Obviously it's not functional. You can't walk away and do your consolidations and reporting in it, but it's going to give you enough of a feel and experiment or use this application a little bit and see what you think about it. It's not going to cost you anything except for your time investment, which we recognize is important, but make good use of it. The output, which you wind up with, is a roadmap to migration, understanding the timeline, the cost, the investment on your part in terms of your people's time, what would they need, any hardware requirements. So basically lay out for you that roadmap of what it would take to migrate. And then, of course, a proof of concept. And if you look at the process to do that, an initial 1 to 2 hour meeting, what we like to do is send the questions that we've got, send those out up front. Also give you the format for the ASCII file of one of your Hyperion Enterprise applications, so that's ready, kind of reduce the time investment on your part. And then we basically go off-site and we build out that proof of concept in HFM and then come back to you and demo that proof of concept. Generally, we see we can accomplish this for that, about a 1 week time frame, and the time that you need to invest is that couple-hour meeting up front, and then we'd probably be looking at an hour, 1 to 2 hours, I say, on the back end of that week to actually take a look at the application, ask questions, and that's it. So minimal investment on your part, and really, could go a long way towards getting you towards an HFM solution.